So there's a little bit of a basic introduction in terms of the counterfeit problem and the challenges that we're seeing in it and kind of how it plays out. As you notice, both of the issues were counterfeit parts from back in 2007. Can you imagine how many counterfeit parts are out there that have really, they're sitting in your warehouses, they're potentially sitting in our warehouses. So the real key of this is continued inspection and vigilant inspection. A little bit about IDEA, so you have a background on our organization. IDEA is 35 different companies. 34 of those companies are privately held, and the reason why I point that out is the ownership of these companies are the people and the individuals that are steering to the direction of IDEA. As they're privately held companies, every individual has a lot at stake in terms of their own personal fortunes and treasures and time and effort. Our members are located literally throughout the world with offices and or warehouses in North America, Europe, and Asia. One of the requirements of IDEA membership is at a minimum to be ISO certified, and in many cases our membership is certified to AS 9120. Additionally, we took the step a few years ago to expand membership requirements in terms of quality and include ANSI ESD S2020. This is the North American standard for ESD practices, safety, and control. The entire membership has IDEA Standard 1010, which you're all probably familiar with in some capacity, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, incorporated into our QMS systems. IDEA Standard 1010 is a standard that deals with inspection and the receiving protocol for components purchased on the open market. As you can see in these couple of bullet points, our scale and scope is really quite huge. We're doing more than 750,000 transactions a year, revenues in the area of $1 billion, and we collectively have more than 1 million different part numbers in stock. This is incredibly important, and it's this piece which is of real value to industry. As you can also see, our organizations collectively, we have put our money where our mouth is. We have invested in training, infrastructure, warehouses, facilities, test and advanced inspection protocols, techniques, and equipment. So we're heavily invested in this industry. As I said earlier, the whole management commitment, and it's something that's very unique to this organization. The 35 members are all individuals at organizations who carry a senior management title if they're not the owner. And in most cases, the management representative to IDEA is in fact the owner of the organization. Because of this commitment, we have produced some really amazing work. One is, as I mentioned, the 1010A, which is soon to be 1010B, and I'll mention that in a little bit. Also, we've developed a method to ensure that our staff is as good as they possibly can be when dealing with inspection and being aware of the counterfeit issue. So all of our members have inspectors certified to IDEA ICE 3000. We very recently participated in the G19 committee, which is responsible for authoring AS 5553, designed for OEMs as a method to, through process and through standards, control the influx of counterfeit components and manage that risk. And more recently, AS 6081, which is designed and aimed towards independent distribution. We travel the world providing training workshops, and we hope to expand that. We're doing it currently nationwide in the US. That's something that it's a specified agenda to expand that globally. And you can see that we've championed the incorporation of a bunch of standards into the individual company's business practices. One of our members refers to the tribal knowledge and the notion of tribal knowledge. And that's one of the things that's really amazing about this group, and I'm very privileged to be representing this group, is we've got extensive human capital, and we've got an amazing collectively experience of international transactions. In terms of membership participation, the way we're structured is through committees, very similar to the way the COG is structured, and those committees are really empowered to go out there and make change and facilitate change. As you can see, some of the key areas that are important is the committee dealing with standards, education and training, membership and ethics, as well as law enforcement. So we're looking to cooperate with law enforcement. And part of my inability to be in person at this event is we have been selected to go and present before the Senate Armed Service Committee, so the US government can hopefully leverage the tribal knowledge that we've acquired. Integrity is another big piece. of kind of our mindset and who we are and what we believe in and what we hope to perpetuate throughout the industry. It's really a key component, and in the absence or in the vacuum that has existed in dealing with counterfeit components going back to 2005 and 2006, we have self-regulated and self-monitored, and we have fulfilled that role. We have created those standards and helped people to understand the tools and the training methods to prevent this counterfeit issue. And continually, on an ongoing basis, our model is based on a peer review. So it ensures that only the best of the best organizations become future members of IDEA. In terms of standards, the one that I've mentioned quite a few times is IDEA Standard 1010. And IDEA Standard 1010, excuse me for a moment as I step off camera, I want to grab a copy of it. This is one of our big proud achievements. This is 1010A, which was the original revision released a few years ago, which was really the only thing of its kind. In May of this year, we announced the revision or the publication of 1010B. It's something that more than 5,000 man-hours of labor have gone into, with really the leaders at every one of our companies participating in authoring this. The big expansion of 1010A to 1010B is 1010A dealt with components very broadly speaking and very globally speaking. We're beginning to deal with them based on product type or family type. So surface mount components and passive components and discrete components are looked at differently from an inspection point of view. We have expanded and detailed solvent testing to a point that it hasn't been done in the past. And now there's actually big components where we're looking at advanced inspection techniques. These were things that 2 years ago or 3 years ago were virtually non-existent and were the property of test houses. At this point, as they're observational, they've become the challenge that we've taken on as independent distribution. As you can see, those tests include solderability testing, fluorescent dye penetrant to determine cracks or voids very easily or inconsistencies within the surface of a part, XRF analysis, which you saw earlier, X-ray analysis, so you're able to compare the inside of a component via an X-ray image to pin out in data sheets, acoustic microscopy, and decapsulation. There's also a small reference to heated solvents in IDEA Standard 1010B, but it wasn't really expanded on due to the myriad of risks with using heated solvents. But it's at least covered, it's at least exposed, so the industry as a whole are aware of these new techniques. The other piece, and the other standard that we're currently working on, and it's in committee right now and it's being authored, is QMS 9090. This was something that was a decision made by the board of directors of IDEA as a way to really police, manage, and control who our members are on an ongoing basis. So it's built on ISO 9001 or AS 9120, except that it's catered very specifically to independent distribution. This is currently in development, and you'll see there's some really amazing provisions and tools that this is going to incorporate. It will be a standard to which we can audit ourselves and we can demonstrate that we truly are committed to quality. As you can see projected on the screen at this point, I have the definition of counterfeit components. Over the past couple of years, there's really been an evolution in the definition. Starting first, the first real accurate definition was AS 5553 in 2009, in April of 2009, where AS 5553 included a very comprehensive definition of counterfeit components. As you can see, this definition has slightly changed as we've morphed forward. And you can see how IDEA 1010A, first revision, and 1010B, the most recent revision, have a very, very broad definition of counterfeit components. And it's basically speaking to fraud and misrepresentation. So if you misrepresent any component of a transaction with respect to authenticity, it's captured in this definition. As a selfish person, a big part of my concern and my insistence on knowledge in this issue is I personally, as an owner of an independent distributor, I face penalties for trafficking in counterfeit components. If I sell counterfeit components in excess of $1,000, I could face 3 to 7 years in prison. I face monetary fines. As that number increases, the fines and the years in prison also increase. There's two things that I want to point to, and you could read about this. This is in the handout. This September 2010 example, there was an organization called Vision Tech Components out of South Florida that the owner and the administrator were arrested, indicted on 10 counts. This was a really amazing, really great, major success for law enforcement that they were really able to go and root out one of the individuals that was intentionally selling counterfeit components. Their crime was quite heinous, as the components that they were selling were destined to go into life-critical applications as well as military defense applications.